Cool, very nice. So let's do an A-B before and after. So this is without the 1176 and LA-2A.
Going away, you take me in. I'm not fighting, we're still lying.
God, it still gets me. So now this is with the two compressors, 1176 going into the LA-2A.
Going away, you take me in. I'm not fighting, we're still lying.
You're listening to the Inside the Mix podcast with your host, Marc Matthews.
Hello, folks, and welcome to the Inside the Mix podcast. If you are a new listener, make sure you hit follow wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're watching this on YouTube, hit subscribe and the notification bell so you get notified of new episodes. And to the returning listeners, a huge welcome back as always. I was scrolling through threads and social media recently, which isn't something I do very often, and I saw a post which was, what is your favorite compressor? It's one of those engagement posts, right? And overwhelmingly, it was 1176, LA-2A, and then the distressor. I've got a distressor emulation and an LA-2A emulation, and I don't have an 1176. And I thought to myself, okay, maybe I am missing out on something here, and I think I am late to the party on that. So then I was scrolling through Facebook, which contradicts my point earlier of not really scrolling through social media, right? And I saw a video, and it was someone using the 1176 and LA-2A in series on vocals and how it's been used on many popular releases throughout the decades, basically, because the 1176 has been around for a while, as has the LA-2A. And I thought this must be a sign, right? I'm late to the party. I need to get on board with this chain of plugins and start using this and experimenting myself. So then what happened was that UAD had a 70% off. So the 1176 was available for 49 quid. Then it was, if you spend over £100, you get £50 off. So I was like, amazing. So I bought the 1176 and the Opal Polymorph synth for £58 from UAD. So it was a sign, right? It was a sign. So this episode is me experimenting with the 1176 and LA-2A in series on a vocal that needs taming. The dynamics in this vocal are quite wild. It's a raw vocal, and it's from a track that I released back in 2022 called You and I. And in particular, there's a section where the vocalist goes really high in terms of volume. And I want something that can control those dynamics smoothly. So I thought this is a great use case for the 1176 and LA-2A. So let's dive in. So we're here in Logic Pro, and I've got the raw vocal here. There's no processing on this whatsoever. And listen out for towards the end of this particular phrase, where the vocalist really does push it in terms of volume. And it's almost a bit uncomfortable in how, not because of the way she sings, but because of the way the volume increases. So listen and you'll see what I mean, or rather you'll hear what I mean.
Going away, you take me in. I'm not fighting, we're still lying.
Right at the end there, it's almost like it makes you kind of, like you're sucking a lemon. It kind of makes your face turn in on itself a bit. It's a bit too abrasive for my liking. But in the end, it turned out incredible. Like, I love it. It's probably my favorite song I've ever released. So this is what it sounds like with the 1176 into the LA-2A.
Going away, you take me in. I'm not fighting, we're still lying.
In particular, that bit at the end, that uncomfortable bit I mentioned, is so much smoother now. Now, I'm still playing around with the parameters and getting used to the 1176 in particular, so I could tweak it a bit more. But I'm going to show you what I did to tame this vocal. I'm using the Rev-A 1176, and this is the original Putnam design of the 1176. So you're going to have the unique characteristics of the original design. I do have the Rev-E, which was the 70s version, which was sort of like the low noise era version, as UAD call it. But I haven't experimented with that one yet. So we're going to be using the Rev-A in this instance. So I started with the Voc peak catcher because that's what I'm doing with this one here. I'm catching peaks basically. And there's a lot, or rather there is that huge one right at the end of that phrase. And I tweaked it slightly. So the attack is all the way fast, well, almost all the way fast. So that is clockwise. So almost at 7. And the release was faster in the patch itself, the preset. So I just brought it back a touch. So it's just under 6. And the input is where I am controlling the amount of gain reduction. So I've got it set at 4:1. I don't want any more than 4:1, but it can go up to 20:1, or you can do, I believe you can do all buttons in. I haven't tried it yet. So I'm using the input to control the gain reduction. So when it gets to that really loud section, that's where I want the needle. That's where I want the gain reduction to take place. And there's quite a lot of it. It's going to go up to about minus 10 dB. But in the initial phrasing of this section, I don't really want any gain reduction to take place. So let's play it and see what I did.
Going where you take me there. I'm not fighting what's still lying.
Yeah, so I'll describe this to you. Those initial where it says going nowhere, no gain reduction taking place. But then when it starts to get louder, that's when we see the needle start to move and gain reduction is taking place. Up to the point whereby with that really loud section, there's about 10 dB of gain reduction, which is needed to control it. The important thing here, as with any compressor really, and any sort of processing you do, is to get the output to match the input volume, because inherently there's going to be a difference between the two. And I've got the output here and it's set at approximately, it's what we've got, 24, that must be 20, what's it going up in increments of 6? So 12, 15, 18, 21. It's just under 21 in terms of output. So if I play this now without the Rev-A compressor on, listen to the first, I was listening in particular to the first phrasing because I want that to be at the same level as it was before. So this is without the compressor on.
Going where you take me there.
And this is with the compressor.
Going where you take me there.
It's probably a touch louder, maybe a dB louder than it was before, so I could probably bring the output down. But what I want is, I want that phrasing there to stay at that same volume that it was before, and then bring down that louder section with gain reduction. So I'm going to play it now without the compressor. I'll play it all the way through, and then I'll play it with.
Going where you take me there. I'm not fighting what's still lying.
Well, I'm wearing headphones, and that really does get inside my head, that last bit there. So now I'll play it with the compressor.
Going where you take me there. I'm not fighting what's still lying.
Much better, right? Much more controlled. There is an element there, I think, when that vocal gets really loud, it sounds like it's distorting slightly, but that could well be the original recording. I don't know what microphone it was done on because it was a remote session and the tracks were sent to me. But that is the 1176. As I say, I'm still playing around with it, still getting used to it, familiarizing myself with the sound of it. But so far, I love it. I think it's a fantastic compressor, as I saw in this thread. And I did actually put a post out and said, should I buy it? And overwhelmingly, it was yes, yes, yes. And various other reasons why. So now let's move on to the LA-2A. So we've got the 1176. We're really slamming down on those peaks there, on in particular, that louder section of that phrasing. So the LA-2A is going to be more subtle. And we're going to be using this just to add a bit of color and just to control it a bit more. It's an optical compressor, so it's a lot slower in its attack time, whereas the 1176 is an FET, or FET compressor, very, very fast acting compressor. Like the 1176, I do have different versions of the LA-2A, but I've gone for the simple one here. I don't have discrete control over emphasis and a high-pass filter as well. And I'm using the belting vocal preset. Now, presets are a great place to start, but you need to tweak them to suit what it is you are trying to achieve. Don't just have a plugin, use a preset, and then move on. I mean, if that does work, then fantastic, great. But I suggest, yes, starting with a preset, specifically if you are new to the plugin, like with the 1176, and then tweaking it to match your objectives. For example, with this preset here, it was set on limit, which is approximately infinity to 1 in terms of ratio. Didn't like that. When it got to the louder section, it was too aggressive. So I flicked it to compress, which is much smoother, 3 to 1 in terms of ratio and gain reduction. Much more complementary to what it is I'm trying to achieve here with this sound. I just want to level it out and have it nice and smooth. Then, peak reduction. That's controlling the amount of gain reduction that is being applied. And then we use the gain to compensate for that gain reduction. Because remember, when I did that demonstration with the 1176 at the beginning with those quieter phrases, I wanted that to be the same volume as it was before. So let's play this with the LA-2A and see how much gain reduction we've got going on here.
Going where you take me there. I'm not fighting what's still lying.
It's about 5 dB, and I would say that's probably a bit aggressive, to be fair. I might dial it back a touch. So I'm going to go back down to about 45. I'm just going to play it again.
Going where you take me there. I'm not fighting what's still lying.
Yeah, that's better. I like that. So when I say 45, that's peak reduction. I could increase the peak reduction and really clamp down on the dynamic range of this performance, like you would often hear in modern pop music, where sometimes the vocal is really slammed with compression. Not to my taste, to be honest. I like to let some of that natural dynamics come through. So what we're going to do now is we're going to play it at the beginning and make sure that the gain is at the optimum level. So we're thinking about gain staging. The volume of this audio is at the optimum level to go into the next signal, or rather the next plugin in the chain. There isn't one at the moment, but there would be hypothetically, right? So I'm going to play it without the tube compressor.
Going where you take me there.
So this is with the tube compressor.
Going where you take me there.
Yeah, I'm happy with the level there. That sounds pretty accurate to me. So let's play it all the way through now with the tube compressor.
Going where you take me there. I'm not fighting what's still lying.
Cool, very nice. So let's do an A-B before and after. So this is without the 1176 and LA-2A.
Going where you take me there. I'm not fighting what's still lying.
God, it still gets me. So now this is with the two compressors, 1176 going into the LA-2A.
Going where you take me there. I'm not fighting what's still lying.
Very nice, much more controlled. I'm thinking I might go in and just play around with the release time on the 1176, but overall it's much improved. Now, admittedly, if I were working on this project, I would probably use some clip gain on this particular phrase here, so I'm not having to hit the compressor so hard. But I wanted a very good use case example in this instance, so I could use the Marc tool, select it, and then go up to my tool here and go to gain tool, and then just bring this down by, I don't know, like 4 dB or something like that. That way I'm not having to hit the compressor so hard. But as I said, I wanted a really obvious and good use case. So there we go. 1176 LA-2A. I've been sleeping on that combo for far too long, and I'm probably going to use it a lot going forward. Now, there are other 1176 and LA-2A emulations out there. Waves, UVI, the list goes on. Can't think of any more off the top of my head. You could also just use an FET going into an optical compressor, like using the ones in Logic, and then tailoring the controls in there and doing something similar. So you don't necessarily have to use the plugins I've used today, But obviously they do have a particular characteristic and sound that comes with it as well, because you can just run the audio through the 1176 and not do any processing and just get the color of the compressor itself. Anyway, folks, if you've enjoyed this episode, I want to hear from you. Click the link in the episode description and leave me an audio message using that SpeakPipe link. You don't need to have a specific app. You don't need an account. All you need is your mobile phone and microphone. It's like sending an audio message on WhatsApp or Instagram or something like that. Let me know why you've enjoyed this episode, why you'd recommend it, or another episode. And each person who submits audio, you will be entered into a hat to win a Starbucks coffee voucher every month. And you will also obviously get your audio played at the beginning of a podcast episode. So make sure you give yourself a shout out. It's the perfect opportunity for you if you've got an impending release or some exciting news to get it out to the podcast audience. So get that audio submitted sooner rather than later so it can be at the beginning of an episode before that special date, whatever it may be. So folks, click the link and let me know your thoughts. I can't wait to hear them.